guys, and welcome back to the infamous project. Today's episode is really just going to be a bunch of me talking. You get to see a little bit of the 1991 DECH Coupe that's sitting behind me. So I was driving it along earlier and the temperature gauge was starting to creep up, and well, I'll go into detail about that in a minute. I also wanted to give you guys a little bit more background on the car and the fact that it's now down here in Texas, and that way you guys can know a little bit more about it and what my future plans are for it. So stay tuned to this episode. I've known about this car since I was still in high school. I purchased the car when I was in college and built the car back in the early 2000s. And it's still the same paint job, same very close theme. A few things have changed over the years, but like many of you guys out there, I sold the car. Changes in life, natural progression of things, and well, it was the one that got away. And it was probably the car that arguably I had the most memories with. Most of my long-term friends all remember the car or having adventures in the car. You know how it goes. You guys can probably listen to a lot of these stories on the podcasts that me and Castle Customs have. So if you guys haven't checked out the podcast, make sure that you do. I keep forgetting to plug that more often because it is a really good listen, and it's just no bullshit garage talk and a lot more unfiltered than I am here for YouTube videos. But anyways, I decided to try and track this car down. I managed to find the owner who had it. I managed to pry it from his hands and finally got it last year back up in Canada. And well, I went through and I changed a few things. You know, I got these beautiful Recaro seats. We'll get into those in a second. But I got the car back. There was a few changes that were done. The car wasn't sitting as low anymore. It had Cobra R wheels, which is just, I won't go there. But I had to get the car right, sitting right, looking right, which I did. And I drove the car quite a bit last year and managed to get it down to the Chocolate Fox show. So my good friend Notorious, he actually got the car out of storage for me. He drove it down to the show. And one thing that I was aware of is the timing cover gasket was not in really good shape. You could see where it was leaking. I'm not sure if there was stop leak ever put in the radiator or the cooling system of this thing, but it's crusty. So I'm gonna open the hood. I'm gonna show you guys that. Otherwise, the look and feel of the car is great. It has some war wounds. It's not perfect because, well, this car was painted back in 2004, but it still shines. It was a really high quality clear, unlike that stuff that I used in the engine bay of the Cali Coupe that turned everything yellow. But the car looks and shines great. It's got some stone chips. It's got a couple cracks because the body kit's actually molded in on this car. But those are sort of some of the risks that you got to take to make things look that much better. And what I mean by molded is I'll show you guys right now. So if you guys look here, normally when these kits go on my silver car, you can see where the lip of the bumper stops and then where the moldings start. So this has all been molded and seamlessly filled to give you the illusion that the car was pretty much like this from factory. And the one thing that I love, probably my most favorite part about it, is the side skirt being molded right into the rocker panel. So it just looks factory. And you can see up there, there's a small crack starting, and that's hard, especially when the car is so low and everything else. These cars flex and they twist, and you know, just old age. You can see all the natural, or not natural, but factory undercoating holes, as the car would have been undercoated to protect it from the Canadian winters. And it's got this amazing black interior, which this black interior was found at a local auto wreckers for $75, thanks to Mr. Notorious way back in the day. And of course these seats weren't with it. It was a normal LX cloth interior. I just got these Recaro scatter pattern seats last year. A guy had them in a Porsche and had them up for sale, so of course I put them in. Got my white face gauges that I did way back in the day. I feel like they suit this car very nicely, but it's definitely a really nice clean interior. It's still sporting its factory quarter window moldings. I've never touched these. They're finally starting to get little tiny pits here, but I'll definitely be able to get these all cleaned up and redone. You can see my trim paint job. It's lasted all the way from 2004, but it's got a couple marks in it. So needless to say, I'm gonna have to redo the trim on this guy. Alright guys, cruising the 1991 DECH Coupe, and was just coming back from Salado, Texas. Probably about a 30-mile trip. Cruised with windows up and AC on down there, and nice drive. Temperature stayed cool, and while on the way home it got a little hotter out and the temperature started to creep up. So the timing cover gasket on this car is just, it's done. I'll show you guys what it looks like when we get home here, but I think it is time for an upgrade. Maybe some, oh, got a closed road here. Keep going, I guess. Detour. Yeah, so I think it's going to be time to open this motor up, and maybe some GT40 cast heads, and the B303, the almighty B-cam. I have the B-cam. I have a line on some GT40 heads, so might be time to do all that. The car's already got Cobra intakes, so opportunity to make a little bit more power and fix this god-awful timing cover gasket. Good thing I made it to Hershey and we had the car trailered back, because I bet you would have been running into a similar situation the whole way back from Hershey if we hadn't decided to drive the car. So there's the update. Hopefully I can limp this thing home. I'm only about 6 miles from home, and the temperature gauge is it's holding in there. I went from having the AC on to the heat on full blast and my windows down, trying to keep things cool. Let's go ahead and open the hood. I'm going to show you guys what's going on underneath here. This car is pretty much stock. You know, it's the stock bottom end in this thing, stock long block. All I did is I added Cobra intakes to it, cold air intake. It's got Mishimoto radiator, but look at that timing cover, guys. Look at how nasty that is. So that is not going to be a fun time changing it. It's all original. It's never been apart. Hell, I don't even know if this water pump has ever been changed. So that'll be a fun time. All right, so I'm back. I actually had my neighbor stop by with his foxbody, and well, we had a couple Miller Lights and did some garage talk. Good little prequel to the podcast that I'll be doing with Castle Customs later. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of an idea and overview about the 1991 DECH Coupe here. Somebody actually made the joke calling me the four-lug thug and asked me about keeping the car four-lug, and The reality is, if you guys didn't know, and this is probably some good information for the DECH documentary that I want to do. So I was putting the stickers on today just to try something a little bit different. I had them laying around, so I'm like, you know what, I'll throw them on there, see how I feel about them. I actually kind of like the look, but that's when the gentleman mentioned the forelug. And while yes, I'm going to be putting on the 17 and 8.5s in the front, 9.5s in the rear, probably going to run the same Falcon setup, the 225 45 and 255 40. If you guys look real close at the calipers and the discs in the back here, this is actually an ultra rare DECH brake setup. So that's actually a rotor face from a Corvette with a custom DECH hat that was made that slides over the factory rotor with the disc machined off. So if you guys kind of think about that for a second, so this is the factory spindle, and on that spindle is a factory style rotor with your studs, but just imagine that the disc was machined off clean. So that gives like a floating hub setup, which it's the normal factory bearing and your cotter pin and dust cap, all of that stuff is on there. But instead of having that rotor is really just there to allow this hat, which is bolted onto this disc, to slide over it, and then with a PBR caliper on there with braided lines. So something kind of neat, very different, very unique, and this just goes to show you guys what Derek Hansen was developing way back in the day. So ultra lightweight, very functional. You know, I actually still have drums in the back. I have the DECH rear brake setup that needs to go on this car, and that's going to finish off everything DECH related, along with the panhard bar. So since the sun's going down, if you guys look close, you can actually see the House of Colors white ice pearl that reflects in the sun, which looks super nice. I did get caught in the rain today driving, so the car is a little dirty, but still shines nice and bright. There you are, a little bit of a scoop on the 1991 DECH Coupe. And if you guys haven't noticed, I did swap out the headlights. I actually did that at the Chocolate Fox show first thing in the morning. I had those done. Everybody always asks, and I will keep saying, it is just tinted clear coat. So a little bit of blue paint mixed in some clear coat, scuffed the lenses down, gave them a couple coats, and that's how I get that look ultimately on the headlights. Got all LEDs in there. I need to do a little bit of adjustment still. I love the way that they look. The nice light blue versus say the turquoise blue that's on the silver DECH Coupe in the garage. So these ones is just like very subtle, and it looks really nice against the white. So now you guys know what to look forward to on this car. We got everything from DECH brakes and a panhard bar. We got some exhaust work that needs to be done. If you guys haven't seen how nasty and horrible this exhaust is, I'm embarrassed for it, but I did show it in one of the past videos when I think we were doing the control arms and everything else back there. But we got to do control arms in the front, we got the timing cover, we got cam install, potential head install, and all of those other lovely things to a motor that's never been apart in those areas yet. So I'm sure we're going to be dealing with some rusty bolts and studs, and I'm a little concerned, I'm not going to lie, but you know what, it needs to get done. Once it's done, this car is going to be ready and happy to put many more miles on it, and I love driving this car. All the power options work. I got keyless entry, the air blows ice cold, I got my old school Sony stereo, my mini disc player in there, and I just love it. So thanks for watching this video, guys. Make sure you subscribe and like. I'm sure you already have if you've watched all the way to the end, but hey, tell your friends about the channel. We'll see you guys next time here on the Infamous Project.